This conference will now be recorded.
The town council meeting from July 23rd and the town council workshop meeting minutes from Wednesday, August 21st.
All right. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, minutes are approved. All right, item number 5, public comments on agenda items only. Do we have any public comments? I see none. To item 6, communications, and start with the administrator's report. Administrator Vince.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Town Council, good evening. The peer update. So John Adair and I met with Dusty McCracken, who's the chair of the peer committee, Sean Fallon, who's the town council liaison, Bob Gordon, peer committee member, and also Mayor Krause, to talk about the follow-up items from council's approval several weeks ago. So first, and I may be taking some items from John's report, but so first, the loading area, the striping is being scheduled at the pier parking lot. The pier swing, so the swing has been selected, and now we're waiting on an engineer's assessment of how to attach it to the pier pilings without interference to the structure. The volleyball net has been ordered. The visitor center concept, we're receiving measurements for the front facade and the glass. The flagpole, so John has ordered one 35-foot flagpole to be placed adjacent to Ocean Boulevard, right there at the very front of the parking lot, and then he's going to order the 2 smaller ones at a different time. The kiosk application is on the agenda for tonight, and the reason it's on the agenda because the council needs to set a fee, and then once the fee has been established from discussion tonight, we'll have a first and second reading in September. And then the pier plaques, I'm still working with the pier committee as far as the style and material. So Alex and I have communicated back and forth, so I'll follow up with him again this week. The Whistling Duck, the tenants had indicated that there's been a setback on their end, but now they're back on the design and trying to fast track it here soon. They do plan to meet with their design team, but they do apologize for the delays and are grateful for our patience. I think John Adair had indicated that a Utility company had gone into the unit today to install equipment, so they are proceeding forward. And then regarding the workshop from last Wednesday to discuss the public facilities, staff has been working since Wednesday to kind of put a color scheme together based on all the facilities that we went through on Wednesday. So we'll have a color-coded chart to indicate what items have been completed by staff, items to be corrected by staff, and items requiring a contractor, a licensed contractor to do the work, and then also items for immediate action. So I've got one more report to look over before we can actually get that back to the council. I'll report that at the next September meeting to give it direction. And what I'm assuming the board would want to do is once we get the items completed by staff, we can put an RFP together to put that out for contractors for each building and get pricing back. So that's to be coming soon. And that's it. Mr. Mayor.
All right, any questions for Administrator Vincent?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Walls?
any kind of timeline expectation, Jerry, that we can expect from the redo of the stormwater reevaluation, the engineering plan down for the, what's the name of that? The cottage.
Floral Clubhouse.
Thank you. Have you reached out to anybody?
John's working on getting a new elevation for that floor.
About how long does something like that take?
I have some information in my report.
Oh, beauty. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
can you explain to us, so the people know, the contracts with the Surf Diner and the Whistling Duck? They only have to start paying rent, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, when they get a C of O?
Yes, sir. I mean, all four lease agreements did not give a time frame for when the work is to be completed for upfit. So the contracts do indicate that once a CO has been issued, then there's a 2-month gap and lease payments to begin the first of the next month.
And is any time frame they have to start working?
Not in it does not.
So they could literally sit for 10 years and leave that place vacant and will not get rent out of it?
Yes, sir. There's really no teeth in those agreements for me.
And this contract was agreed to by the council who was serving in 2021, I believe.
Yeah, the first one was Surf Diner back in 2020, and then the other 3 were probably within the last 24 months.
Just trying to be transparent with the residents when everyone's excited about it. This council sitting here has nothing to do with that. I hope possibly in the future we can get a lawyer who actually can get us out of it, because the pier's been open for 6 months. And when the finance group all comes up, we're in a deficit with revenue coming from the pier.
Right.
And we should be getting revenue. And I understand the Whistling Duck had some personal issues, but Surf Diner, I don't understand what's going on. We're losing a lot of money, not only from those rents, but from revenue coming from people who want to go there and spend more money in other places.
I agree, Mr. Goldman.
You said about striping, that's for the trucks that deliver?
Yes, sir, at the loading zone.
Can you also look into possibly either signage or striping for that emergency lane that goes onto the beach? I hear that everyone's stopping there, and it's hard for people to get on and off. Just look at it. I got a complaint from somebody in the community who's concerned about it, that the beach ambassadors were concerned about it also.
Okay.
Thank
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Krecklau?
I have a follow-up question for our administrator. Who's responsible for utility payments for the two, the Whistling Duck and the Surf Diner at this point in time? Are they paying their utilities? Because I'm sure they have electricity and water in them, and we shouldn't be paying while they're upfitting, in my opinion.
Yeah, water and sewer is definitely not, there's no meters to those locations. maybe John Adair knows better, but I would say we're paying for the electricity when it's going on.
Will that be true after they open?
No,
Well, can't we force them to put in a meter? They're using, I'm sure they're gonna be using water and electricity while they're doing upfitting. And we shouldn't be the town shouldn't be responsible, I don't think, for them dragging their feet kind of.
if we're gonna be consistent, then consistent would be, we would continue to pay the light bill until they occupy the space.
I think we should just turn the lights off then, just my opinion.
Any other questions? Mrs. Slavy?
Jerry, has it been looked into to see if there's anything that can be done to get these contracts updated or changed over since it's taken so long?
I have not asked the town attorney that exact question. I don't know that there could be any forcing of the surf downer at all, but we can look at the whistling duck just to kind of move them along. I don't know what kind of language would do that.
So there's nothing we can do to put a clamp on surf downer to help them move along a little bit faster?
That's the same, we've read that contract so many times, and Jared and I do not see it.
On the good side, though, there is some work going on. It may not be the pace we
Yes,
want.
I mean, Mr. Howard is in his space, and he's got contracts coming in and out every day.
All right, anything else? All right, we will then move on to the Public Works report in the director's section.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and citizens. Pardon. A Public Works report for July in our sanitation division. July, we collected 770 tons of solid waste, 57 tons of mixed debris, 83 tons of yard debris, and 61 tons of recyclables. That July solid waste number is probably the highest we've had ever. Very good July as far as the numbers go. In our streets and drainage division, beach refuse and recycling services are on the summer schedule, but they will be transitioning after September 9th to 5 times a week rather than 7 times a week schedule. We taper off as we get closer to the fall. 60 feet of Moby mat for accessibility has been installed at the 3rd South Beach access, as well as a new ramp, and that's out there for the public to enjoy. We've gotten our permit, by the way, the adaptive surf people that were here recently that offered to put in a mat at 16th North. We've gotten the permit from OCRM for that, and that's going to happen this coming Thursday afternoon at 5 o'clock. I believe Tabitha is going to take some pictures of that. So that'll be a total of 5. The road resurfacing project has been completed with approximately 2.5 miles of roadways, new pavement, including the 3rd South parking lot. The North Side Drainage Project has been advertised for bid by the state. The South Carolina Officer of Resiliency is providing a good bit of money for the project. The pre-bid meeting was held today in Town Hall. The bid opening itself will be on September 12th in Columbia. We hope to get a good contractor to start work on that right away. In answer to a question about the Floral Clubhouse, I did receive today the elevation certificate for the Floral Clubhouse. The first finished floor sits at 12.6 feet. It's located in an AE 11 flood zone. So we have a 3-foot freeboard requirement. So it would have to be 14 feet to meet our flood requirements. So basically we are stuck with 48%, or we could elevate the building 1.5 feet and we'd be compliant. I don't know which is going to save us more money, but I can't imagine it'd be too much money to raise the building. That's up to council. But we are about 1.4 feet below where we need to be to have carte blanche to do what we want with the building. In our grounds division, the crews are assisting in backfilling with pier operations. They are preparing and cleaning up after the farmers market and getting ready for all the fall special events. In our pier staff, the staff is performing daily scheduled maintenance tasks and repairs. The council approved pier committee recommendations are being executed, as the administrator alluded to. And our end of July fishing reporting shows over 2,350 fishing passes sold for July. And I expect that to taper off a little bit now as we get past the high season. In our fleet maintenance division, our mechanics completed in July 65 repairs on town vehicles and equipment, with 16 additional vehicles receiving preventive maintenance. That's my report. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Director Adair? I just have one. Would you, I know it's not on here, but you mind telling the folks a little bit about the HTC meeting?
Oh, yes, those who've been paying attention, about 5 years ago, maybe a little more now, HTC began installing fiber optic underground for the most part in town. It started on Highway 17 business, and they pretty much did the perimeter of town. They did Ocean Boulevard corridor, a little bit on the south end towards Melody, but mostly the 17 and Ocean Boulevard corridor. And they put everything on hold after that. They had some work to do in other markets, particularly Georgetown County. They're wrapping that up now, and they're coming back now to Surfside Beach, and they expect in the springtime to begin, or maybe late fall, to be doing the interior of town. So very soon, they'll be putting out information that we can share with the public, and people will have options after that as to who their service provider is going to be. So I'm pretty happy about that. A lot of the old legacy massive green boxes that they had installed from years ago will be removed and replaced with much smaller equipment for the fiber optic. So that's another plus. So some of those phone calls will go away after that. But as long as they have good subcontractors, which I hope they do, we shouldn't have too many conflicts and problems. So I'm encouraged.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Kinkin.
Have you been able to solve the trash issue behind Uptown Restaurants on the far side of?
Oh, the alley over there?
Yeah, on the alleyway.
Well, I met last week with Mr. Banish from the business committee.
Yeah.
He was sort of representing the businesses there and what their needs were. And I went over with him the options that we had presented to the businesses last year or 2 years ago now, however long it's been. They're saying that they needed to get their dumpster into a compliant location, or otherwise we'd have to service them with roll cars, which is ultimately what happened.
Yeah.
And so he's going to go back and work with them to hopefully get them to agree to one of the couple of locations that would work for our vehicles and would still be legal and off of the right of way. So hopefully he can get that done.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
can you just give us a quick update on the beach nourishment? I know they were supposed to start already, but it was changed, right?
Yeah, it was originally supposed to start, the bidding was gonna be this summer with the work happening after Labor Day. But last I heard, a couple of months ago, it was gonna be pushed back probably into the winter time. I haven't gotten any exact dates on that lately, but I will make an inquiry and get back to the council on that.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much, Director Adair.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Let's move on to Police Department, Chief Davis.
Good evening, everyone. Just to throw out, so what you guys might expect a little different in our next report, we're going to delve more into what crimes are reported and what crimes are leading as far as in our neighborhoods here, to give folks kind of an idea of what's happening. We'll report more on what is occurring as opposed to what our officers have done. But if you have questions on what our metrics are as far as our productivity, I'll be happy to talk about those too. So we're sort of retooling that a little bit. So there's some data here for July regarding citations, ordinance citations, and warning citations that you have in your packets, and I'm sure you've looked at. We do still have 5 arrest warrants issued. 4 have been served, and 1 is outstanding from the month of July. 3 warrants were for narcotics violations, 24 total arrests, and several of those are block hits where we have arrested people for other jurisdictions that were wanted. So we do see a lot of that. We did have some personnel actions. I included them. They occurred in early August, but I wanted to include them to make the council aware in a timely fashion. So unfortunately, we did lose Sergeant Kehoe. She submitted her resignation, and Patrolman William Weaver submitted his resignation. We did promote Sergeant William Mickle to captain, and Corporal Josh Blair to training sergeant, and PFC Alan Sharp was promoted to corporal. Training activity wise, we did have a little bit of activity that took place other than just what is the normal ACADIS protocol that the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy sends out to us. Corporal Alan Sharp attended Specific Skills Instructor recertification. That was at the academy, so that was at a minimal cost. And Sergeant Blair attended and completed supervisory, it was called SLI, so supervisory leadership course, which was held locally. So we had the minimal cost for both of those. Some notable events I'd like to speak of as far as our recruiting and our hiring. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat, but I can't seem to get rid of it. Pardon me. We had an evaluation process for new applicants on July 29th, and 12 were scheduled. Of those 12, 7 appeared. We made one conditional offer so far out of that group, and he's currently in background. We had another scheduled process on August 15th for 4 candidates, of which 2 appeared. We have made one conditional offer so far out of that group, and he is currently in background. Additionally, a candidate who wishes to relocate here but is still active with an agency up north will not be able to end his service until April 2025. We couldn't offer him anything, but what we did is we placed him on a qualified lateral transfer list, so if we have something at that time, it's still within the year, so we maybe can include him for consideration should that materialize. We're in the process of evaluating sergeant applications to replace Sergeant Kehoe. We have scheduled 4 very qualified applicants. We've interviewed 1 person, there are 3 others to interview. We had another application come in today that was kind of a surprise. It's a certified officer from close by that I have worked with in the past. I know him to be a good egg. So we'll see how that turns out as well. But I will say that, and I will thank Tabitha very much for all of her assistance with advertising for these spots. And I will thank the council for your support in raising our salaries, because I think it's made a huge difference in our applicant pool. You can see it. You can see it. So it's appreciated. And that's what I have for you this evening, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Walls.
I had a question, just curious. How come it looks like it's consistently only at like half show?
The county police is dealing with the same thing.
Oh, is that right?
It's
understand.
weird, yeah. And Myrtle Beach too. A ton of people will apply. You'll invite maybe 70 to 75%, and you'll have maybe half of those show.
Okay.
I can't explain it. I wish I could.
Mr. Coleman.
Shortage promoted 3 people.
Yes, sir.
Where I come from, well, that's a big deal.
Yes, sir.
And it's a big ceremony and everything. I know it's not up to you, but hopefully in the future, we could have a little bit bigger of a ceremony, possibly right before a meeting or during a meeting, so that the residents can see the people who are getting promoted and get to know their officers.
I like that idea.
Yeah, just a little, motion on the side. I don't think it's adequate enough. I think we always present 5-year award, which is a big thing here, because nobody really lasts for 5 years. But somebody who actually gets promoted, that's a special occasion.
I think that's a great idea.
In the future, we could do it before a meeting or during the meeting. Do you ever have anything? I know we had an isolated shots fired incident. Any arrests or anything like that?
No arrest, and I really can't talk about that.
Right.
But I can have some discussions after we're through, and I can kind of fill in a couple of the holes. But we feel confident we have a very good suspect.
Okay. So I see a big difference. And police officers are stopping and talking to people. And the biggest indicator of the police officers coming to a community policing orientation and really getting it is that when you make posts on the Surfside Beach Police Department, makes posts, 90% of them are positive. Less than a year ago, in fact, when the new council came on, we were thinking about possibly having a social media censorship, let people say stuff. But I see a big turnaround. There isn't people bashing the police all the time and calling them out. Surfside's terrible. I mean, you have a couple of idiots, on every post, but they hate cops no matter what. And I really see a big difference, and I really applaud you and your staff for really turning this around, and also about getting the cops raised. It was a great thing you did for
I
not
will-
only the department, but the town.
And I will say, Mr. Coleman, it's not myself or Captain Mickle, it's them. They're the ones that are stepping up, they're pushing forward. I'm extremely proud of them. They're stepping up, they're pushing forward, they're moving out in the community, they're going to meet people, and that's what we want, and they're doing it. So it's all the credit is to them.
I mentioned to you about the stickers.
Yes, sir.
The Police department has little badge stickers. And you said you were running out. My two grandsons were on the beach, and the beach ambassador came by, and they actually got it. It was one of the highlights of the vacation visit. So if we could, get some more stickers.
Yeah, we'll be ordering some more. We did find a very small amount that we had in one of our little storage areas, but we will be ordering some more. Those are big hits.
Yeah, I know we do that during festivals and stuff like that, but just regular interactions with people. One more point. You also told me, I don't know if it's still in the process, you have an officer who was here years ago, who's coming back.
He is in background presently,
Okay,
and he is quite a young man. We will, and I think, now he'll have to go back to the academy, but he's ready to go. He's excited.
right, so he left here and got out of law enforcement, correct?
He did. He got out for a little while.
And now I know him, and I know his family lives here, or used to live here, and he's coming back.
Yes, sir.
He wants to come back.
He's a great guy.
Okay.
His mother is a retired police officer from the county, and she is top drawer. So just great folks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Kinkin, any help from Clemson on the tree issue?
Well, actually, not from Clemson. They will be here on the 31st. What is that? They'll be here on the 31st to do a little bit of work. And I've also talked with, I was in contact today with the Forestry Commission, with one of their arborists who's going to help us out with some of this. She's a little more learned, I think.
Okay.
Definitely more learned than me. But we have had, we're still moving forward. There'll be some more interviews conducted, I think, on the 31st. I'm not going to show my hand there, but we will talk with some more folks. The arborist, as a matter of fact, she's going to assist us. I'm going to be sending the case file up for her review tomorrow in the morning, and she's expecting that. So she's been great.
Well, I'm glad you got some help somewhere. Thank you.
Thank somebody on one of our committees for that assistance. So.
I got a question. I'm not a huge social media fan, but anybody who is familiar with the town couldn't have helped miss a lot of traffic on the goose situation.
Yes, sir.
You want to clue us in, what's the town's interaction in that?
Absolutely nothing, other than we've been made aware that some folks have indicated that there's a lessened number of geese in some areas, but we don't have any involvement in it. We haven't. I think somebody thought that maybe we picked the geese up. We certainly haven't picked any geese up. We have no place to put geese, and if we did, it would be illegal for us to just pick them up and run off with them without a permit. We don't have a permit. We're not in that business. So.
But it's my understanding that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has issued a blanket permit, or maybe just a authorization to South Carolina DNR to issue individual permits.
Yes, sir.
In this area.
Yes, sir. What they do is from March the 3rd until the 31st of August this year, they have issued a permit to the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources for them to promulgate or administer to local jurisdictions or individuals throughout South Carolina. So in order to secure one of these permits, you have to go through the Department of Natural Resources. They'll catalog that, some information. It can be a property owner. It can be a property owner. It can be a homeowners association. And it allows them to remove geese or Canada geese, and it allows them to deal with nests if they're on their property as well. But we do not get involved in any of that.
Okay. So if there are geese missing, it's entirely possible it's through one of these permits.
Or
And
they
it's
could-
perfectly
or They
legal.
might have just flown away.
Or they might have just flown away.
Not our
Really
geese.
sure.
They don't seem to fly away.
I'm hoping they flew away, but
They
I
seem
see
to like it
pretty
here.
well. They eat pretty well.
Yeah, I think they do. Okay.
But if anybody has a question on that or an issue, they're welcome to come by and see me or call about it. I'm happy to discuss it with them.
But with all the social media activity, how many complaints have you heard?
I have not gotten any on the police department.
But they could come to you.
Absolutely.
They could go to South Carolina DNR. That would probably be locally you. If they want to complain to the state, that would be the best.
There's
outcome.
actually a number on the DNR website that deals with Canada geese that they can call and speak with somebody about it. I'm sure that they would be more than willing to call them as well.
And that might be even more effective than social media posts?
Probably so, yes, sir. Probably so.
Yeah. Okay, I should have said that, I know.
Mr. Mayor,
Miss Shaw,
I can, the geese situation, I took 3 hours of my time and dove deep into the DNR website. And now I know more about geese than I ever thought I would. And you are true about the nest and the permits. That is true. Some people are not going to like that. But we have what they call resident geese because someone keeps feeding them or people are feeding them. So this ruling falls under resident geese. So if you ever want, it's a very easy read. It's just that I kept clicking on the next link and I got involved, and before long I thought I was going to do a link chart or something. But
There's a lot on there.
yes, but that is true. They need to go through DNR.
all right. Anything else for Chief Davis? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you folks for hearing from me. Have a good evening.
Let us move on to public information and events. Ms. Tabitha Mall?
Good evening. Okay, so under communication, we're going to start with the website. We are continuing, the website updates, and that's plural. That happens on a daily basis. This week, though, we are having a training seminar with the Surfside Beach Police Department so they can take over their page with my support. So I'm excited to teach Bill Mickle that information. Our tourism advertisements continue to drive traffic, continue to get phone calls based on those papers. Social media followers, this is what I'm super excited about. We just hit 34,000 followers on our page, which is really cool. Woohoo! Yeah, thank you. And then the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber Partnership, we are defining that monthly report that I told you guys about last month. To get the most impact and streamline that process for you guys to have information. I'm truly excited to talk about Placer AI. Again, this is just a conversation. My initial call with them on August the 19th basically was to understand their program. What it is a system or an app that tracks tourism. Not for the Grand Strand, not a sampling, but exactly right here in Surfside Beach, South Carolina. So we did a little test during that initial meeting, and I asked them to pull up the 2023 Fall Family Festival. As you all will recall, I guesstimated about 10,000 visitors to that particular festival. And it came out to be 8,900 and some change. So I was excited to see that those numbers are aligning. And not only that, I'm excited to tell you that I can help in the aspect of determining where those people go before the festival, after the festival, and where they actually live. So more to come because my next meeting is on August the 28th. So that's what I'm excited about. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is the Tropical Storm Debbie. I just want to say thank you to all my peers and partners out there. We executed our communication flawlessly between all departments, and I thank each and every single one of you guys for that. So the citizens got communication on the regular, and were informed at all times. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is the Civic Plus apps. There's 2 of them. So the first one was the smartphone app that we've been talking about for several months now. And then the next one is the Audio Eye app. So this is an app that helps us stay ADA compliant. So we did a phone conversation / Teams meeting with them. And what we found out is our town is about 67% compliant for ADA. So we should be at 90%. So what does, some of the bullet points for audio app is it allows the town, again, to be ADA compliant and fixes the issues in real time. So what does it do? It ensures more accessible website. It has expert remediations, continuous monitoring, and the reduce of legal risk through Audio Eye trusted certification. So why do you think we need this? Of course, we want to be ADA compliant, right? My personal opinion is that we should have had this when we transitioned into Civic Plus. This should not be something that we don't have. There is no way with the amount of time that it takes to do these things on that website that I can literally get that done. It would be around the clock 24/7. So it is a very important app that we should have. And so what I did is, as you all know, I have been negotiating the smartphone app. I also included this Audio Eye app into that. With that being said, for the initial year, it would be a cost of $10,815, and then the annual reoccurring service would be $12,040. So of course that's not budgeted right now for 2025. So a couple of options that we can have here. The first option would be that we wait until 2026 budget. That would be first. The second thing that we could do is our town newsletter is about $12,000 per year. That's with postage and printing, not including, the labor of putting it together, of course, because I absorb that because I do the letter. So with those things, or we can wait until spring. So 3 things. The newsletter, and we'll talk about that in just a second. We can replace it with the newsletter. We can wait until spring to see if there's funding based on our budget and where we are, and then we can just nix it. So with the newsletter, I just want to talk about that. Because it is a $12,000 expense, we could literally in-house print that newsletter, not 4,500 copies, of course, but we could print that and have that at the library and in town hall. It is already on the website, and I could also e-newsletter it. So any email subscribers, they would just get it automatically through the e-newsletter. These are just all options for you guys. Whichever one you guys prefer, I'm fine with that. But those are all the channels that we can use to replace or have the funds to be able to get the Smart app and the Audio Eye app. It's up to you guys, so I can bring a decision paper and, to your next thing. I just wanted to give you the information so you can noodle it over and see what you guys think would be the best options. Okay, so then moving on into events, I'm happy to say that the Hula and Fire Shows in Crafters Cove, both of those events were hugely successful this year. The promoters of both events told us that they saw record attendance on both of those, so that's a great thing. Our live music at Memorial Park continues on Sundays, and that'll continue all the way through September the 29th. We have one last test pier concert And that's good. The next one is gonna be, with the Tropical Jammers. So they're gonna be doing steel drums on the pier on September the 25th, which I'm excited about. I personally like Tropical Jammers, so there you go. We had 2 ribbon cuttings. Those were with Cup and Cone and Coastal Corn. We had an employee appreciation night at the Pelicans game, and that went very well, and those attendees were very appreciative of it. Upcoming, we've got our 4th annual Celebrate Surfside Beach Festival that will take place on September 14th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the Fall Family Festival will be held on October the 5th. With over 90 vendors, and that's sold out. It's been sold out for like 3 months, so it was pretty exciting. People really want to get into that festival. So that's my report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
the amusement in the Memorial Park,
Yes.
it was very, very, very well attended. I thought it was great. It sort of kind of petered out. Are we keeping a record of how many people are showing up just to gauge how long we're going to do it in the future?
Yeah, so last week we had over 100 attendees. The week before we had a lull because of the weather, I would assume. But yeah, so it's around 100 last week. But before that, of course, tourism and peak, you know, we are definitely going to have a big hurrah.
I was there last week and I got there maybe an hour later.
Yeah.
And it was less than 100 people. Usually the groups that came aren't coming anymore, and that's residents. Also and I love the music on the pier, but there wasn't too many people other than me and your husband's father.
Yeah.
There wasn't too many more people there.
Yeah, last week was a little lull for that, but again, again, it's a test, right? So we're testing it out. We're gonna see. I gotta tell you, I get a lot of complaints about chairs not being allowed.
I agree with you.
So, you know, and I did have that conversation with Keith, and, you know, we'll see what happens. But I feel like we should just test it, see where we move in the future, to your point, and we'll see what happens. Maybe it's not even the right place for that, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I would like to see even the benches moved around or something like that. I think we have to sit down and try to figure out the best solution for it.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a great venue. It just needs to be.
Yes, sir. And I agree, we are working on that for sure.
Also, at the beginning of the season, it was mentioned that it was possibly going to be beer and wine being sold. Or whatever happened to that?
So the beer and wine would come when the restaurants came. We attempted to think about someone coming up there, like maybe Neil and Pam's, Jimmy Changalama, whoever, to come up and sell it. But it just never evolved. The restaurants would have to do additional work, and they're already strapped for staff and stuff like that. So for sure.
All right, thank you.
Of course, sir.
I just have one comment more than a question. I was contacted by a gentleman that was the emergency operations director of York County for 30-some years, recently retired. He's a second homeowner here, and he also worked at 9/11 and did a lot of work. He was up there for quite a few weeks, if I remember. And he commented that he was very well pleased with the communications that we had in the public and what he could see amongst all the departments and all that. So I just wanted to say that and not that I know a whole lot about it, but I was impressed as well. I thought everybody did a really good job. So the storm wasn't that big a deal, I know, but the communications were great. So
thank you. Teamwork makes the dream work. Like it.
All right. Is there anything else?
That's it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Let's move on to Planning, Building, and Zoning, Director Garrison.
Hello, good evening. The following is a summary of the department's initiatives, challenges, and achievements since our last meeting. Address corrections in land records, our department successfully corrected, it's going to say 23, but it should say 12 addresses in the land record system. Building inspector resignation. The resignation of the building inspector was effective immediately. The vacancy has been posted on multiple job boards, resulting in several inquiries. Although we've not yet commenced the interview process, we anticipate a strong pool of candidates. Filling this position promptly is a priority. Nuisance property abatement. We've made significant progress in addressing long-standing nuisance properties within the town. We have one that was successfully abated, another that's scheduled for abatement next week, and then we have 2 that abatement is in progress. These properties have been a source of complaints and have negatively impacted their neighborhoods for over 5 years. So this is a really good thing. We're excited about this abatement process getting started and being able to get some of these properties cleaned up. As I mentioned last month, we're continuing our document purging and scanning, and we're also continuing our zoning ordinance revision. It's gonna be like a total revamp, as there are some parts of the ordinance that are a little outdated, they need a little TLC. Planning Commission and weather-related updates. The Planning Commission meeting was scheduled due to Tropical Storm Debbie. However, we are pleased to report that no substantial damage was assessed as a result of the storm. Board of Zoning Appeals, the Board of Zoning Appeals met to consider a variance request, which was subsequently denied. We had continuing education and professional development. The code enforcement official, Chris Cochran, was currently enrolled in continuing education classes to enhance his expertise and effectiveness in code enforcement. Our permit tech, Angie Poston, she attended a 2-day conference on professional development. Upcoming community engagement and education in September, actually September 6th, we're gonna host a lunch and learn, and it's titled Education Over Evacuation. It's aimed at local property management companies and homeowners associations. This event will highlight the importance of maintenance for specific building types, particularly given the unique environmental challenges our town faces, like the older stick-built structures that we're seeing a lot of deterioration on. We're trying to educate the owners and get them to take care of it, get some engineering reports done prior to something happening that they have to be closed down. Next thing, community service initiative. Our code enforcement official, Chris, has developed a community service unit. This initiative aims to assist homeowners facing nuisance violations by coordinating local volunteer groups to help clean up affected areas. And that's where he wants to, if there's someone facing nuisance violations and they're, about to be in the process of abatement, and it's just something that, they can't physically get out there and do it, or they can't get someone to do the work, we're gonna be able to partner with them and local volunteer groups and get them to go out and volunteer and assist the homeowner in trying to clean up, instead of just, oh, here's a violation, here's this, we're gonna try and assist them in that process. And then the last thing that we've been addressing are signage violations, and we've addressed multiple signage violations that delivered flyers for businesses on US Highway 17 for having prohibited signs. These signs are anything flashing, signs involving rotation, animation, or other forms of movement or moving illumination. So if you see any of those running lights around the businesses and things like that, we have been handing out flyers, and we have been going to the businesses and talking to them one-on-one about what's allowed and what's not allowed up and down Highway 17. Are there any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Kinkin.
Wait a minute. This 110 Cedar Drive South, is that house abandoned? Because if I've looked at it and I cannot see any.
I'm pretty sure that one's not abandoned.
It has no power. I can't see any. I've looked around.
I'm pretty sure there's a lady living.
I think there
You
is,
think so?
there is a lady living in.
Okay, well then she has something.
With children.
I
Okay.
didn't know that part of it.
Thank you.
Actually, I think she had a permit.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Coleman.
About 2 months ago was your last planning commission meeting,
Mhm.
and I attended the meeting, and at the meeting, they were talking about vape shops,
Yes, sir.
and then they were possibly mentioning getting a moratorium on vape shops, and we're supposed to bring, I believe you were gonna bring it to the lawyer and see what the lawyer had to say.
Yes, sir. He said no moratorium.
He said we can't do a moratorium.
Yes, sir. That was the guidance given.
Did you say why?
No, sir.
All right. Anything else?
Also, used to be really, really strict. I think it was too strict. If you had a business, you weren't allowed to put anything in front of your place. Now you got a million golf carts in front of every single store. We've got to the point we have those flags out in the right of way. Are those allowed now?
No, sir, and I actually just had this conversation, this morning with Mr. Adair, and we were talking about getting Chris to go out and discuss those desert flags. Is that what you're talking about? And the other ones in the right of way.
Are all those golf carts in the right of way allowed?
They shouldn't be in the right of way. If they are in the right of way, that's something that we continuously go around and speak to them as well to get them to back them up.
I have no problem with golf carts trying to sell their wares, and everything, but it's starting to look like Surfside to used car lot that all these golf carts belong.
Yes, sir.
And it's not a pretty sight.
And that's something that we do actually is, I will say, it's kind of like a rhythm with the golf carts, that we do go out, we let them know, they back it up, things are good for a little while, and then a couple of months later, they're back in the right of way and things like that. So that is something that anytime you do see it, just let us know and we'll get out there.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw.
I guess this is more a question for Mr. Vincent, but it concerns me that the attorney said no, concerning, the vape shops. I think we need to look further into that because, I checked with Myrtle Beach, and Myrtle Beach actually limits the amount of business, the same businesses. So say the number 5. If they have 5 golf cart businesses, then they can't have any more. So I think we have to look into the reasoning why the attorney said that. I just need just to say no is not a good answer.
Thank you.
I have one question, or a request, I guess. I'm not sure everybody's familiar with the term abatement. Can you give like a 1-minute high-level definition of what that process is?
I can. Abatement is basically when you have a nuisance property or property in violation as far as overgrowth, junk in your yard, things like that. That's where the city would come in and clean it up for you. And usually there's an abatement process where a lien is placed on your house or some sort of fine so that, yeah, ultimately the city could get, or town could get paid back for the work that they go out and do. And it's ultimately a last resort. We don't just go there on the first. Obviously, these have been 5 years, and that's kind of why we've decided we need some kind of abatement process in place so that we can start really actually getting these properties cleaned up.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. So I'm sorry, I'm just trying to follow this. So when we say, Heather, that we had an abatement with this property, what does that mean that you've done?
That we've gone in as the town and cleaned it up, or either they have cleaned it up prior to us going in. So the one that says successfully abated was in the process, about to be 30 days, you gotta get it cleaned up or you're out, all the serious violation letters and stuff were written. And when he went to post it, it had all been cleaned up. So it's successfully abated.
Okay. So no legal processes or anything had to be initiated?
No, sir. We verified all this with the town attorney as well before that we were following the correct processes in order to be in place.
Mr. Stanley.
Heather, on these car deals that sitting around in people's yards with no tags and stuff on, is that part of this abatement to get these cars off out or the yards, or what are we doing about that?
I think that if they have junk cars and junk in the yards, I think they have to go through the court process. I think that's what we discussed. And they get a ticket and they go to court, and the judge lets them know that they can have, a little bit more time. And they get another ticket and they go back to court and they can get a little more time. It's kind of.
Does our ordinance not cover some of that on our own?
It does on some of it, yes, sir.
I mean, I can take you and show you a property right now. It's got probably 4 cars sitting on it and probably or say 5 cars sitting on it, and probably 2 of them's got tags, and the other 3 does not. It's been sitting there for years. They had one time took a tarp out there and covered one of them up, and now the tarp's all tore up and blowed off, and it's still sitting there with the tarp hanging to the sides. So we're gonna continue to let that happen, or is?
No, sir, we're addressing those whenever we are made aware, we go out and follow our process.
This one address looks like it might be.
I think it is actually.
Yeah, I believe so.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw?
just to add in on that, the last time we were all together, and I did make a mistake about Chapter 12 ordinance changing. I was supposed to go through Planning Commission, and I apologize for the mix-up. But team players like yourself came to me and talked to me, and we are going to the Planning Commission meeting next week. And to respond to Mr. Stamey is that we have 3 ordinance, 2 say one thing and 1 says another, but it addresses the unlicensed vehicles. We have to go through planning and zoning and planning commission first to see if we can get them all to say the same thing. And then once our ordinance says that, then it would be easier for town to go after these individuals that have 3 and 4 vehicles with no license plates.
All right, any other comments, questions for Director Garrison? Thank you very much. We're going to move on to Finance, Director Gruber.
Good evening. So I'll start with, as you know, year end is June 30th, your fiscal year end. So this is the time when you don't have just your normal your normal monthly stuff. You have a lot of other things you have to get together for the auditors and everything else. So I'm happy to report, I feel like we're in a good place on that. So I don't think there will be any significant changes to any of these numbers that I'm about to go over with you. The general fund revenue total is 8.5 million through June, while the expenditures were 9.1. Remember, that's operating revenue. We have other revenues that get transferred. Property tax collection as of June 31st was 3.85 million. In June, there were 23 new business license accounts opened. 7 were new, 3 were new rentals, 4 contractors, and 9 out-of-town businesses. June non-renewals or closed accounts were 141, but I do want you to take that with a grain of salt because that's why I had this sentence. These are contractors who choose not to renew until they have a job. So basically, these are business licenses are closing and opening, closing and opening. And a good example would be roofers. So I just want to make you aware of that. Special revenue funds, accommodations tax, and hospitality. Hospitality collections were 2.82 million. Local aid tax 574,000, and the collections for state aid tax were 1.18 million. Our capital projects funds through June was 194,000. Stormwater utility fund our collections through June were 472,000. On the enterprise fund, the pier generated 188,000 in operating revenue through June, and our expenses totaled 450,000. Again, that was operating revenue. Sanitation fund, operating revenue was 1.5 million, and our expenses were 1.6. They continue to cover all their expenses with revenue collected. Parking revenue was 682,000, and our expenditures were 309. And again, I leave the investment pool on there. Our interest rate remains at 5.52%. And another thing I wanted to talk about is we got our new senior accountant started Monday, and it's been 2 days, and I love it. I love it already. So I feel like her and I will be able to accomplish a lot.
All right, are there any questions for Director Gruber?
Mr.
Wallace?
Mr. Mayor. Could you kind of clarify a little bit? It just jumps out at me when we owe so much more than what we're showing, like, for instance, on the pier. When we turn around and show parking, the revenues that we're generating is definitely offsetting in a good way the expenditures, but the pier. So where's that 450,000 number come from? Is that total debt? Is that like including the?
That includes some one-off things that we actually had to pay this year. For example, the surf diner.
Yeah, 200.
Yeah. So that's where that comes from. So that will have to be the use of funds that are already in the fund.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Director Gruber. We will now move on to the fire department. Chief Nelson.
Good evening. Keep up with the date on the hiring process that we've been going through. We've scheduled interviews for 4 firefighters right before Tropical Storm Debbie. Unfortunately, we had to postpone those interviews due to the storm. And when we rescheduled them, 2 of the applicants wished to continue on with the interview process. 1 did not return a call, and 1 had already got another job somewhere else, just kind of like what's going on with the police department. We did hire a fire inspector out of the interview process and 1 firefighter. Conditional offers have been sent out to them. We also put another conditional offer in for a fire captain who's a paramedic, so that will give us another paramedic on a shift as well. Unfortunately, 1 of our fire captains will be leaving us for better opportunities for him and his family, so that position's open again, but we have 3 applicants that we will be doing interviews starting next week and the week after to fill that position. So we're at the point right now that if we get 3 more firefighters, if we get 4 additional more firefighters, we will be complete for where we need to be. So we need 4 firefighters to complete putting the 4 on each shift. Prior to my arrival, there was some discussion regarding a past firefighter that passed away in the line of duty. I was asked about how we can honor him, and I feel that we can best honor this individual by having a plaque made at the station in memory of his duties and sacrifice. We could have this plaque placed up at the station. I never met the gentleman, but it's a good thing to honor him and keep him in our thoughts and prayers since he did sacrifice for the town and stuff. I'm just looking for what kind of expenditure you'd like to spend on this plaque, and we can get that done and take it care of for the family.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Stanley, does that conclude?
No.
Do you want to go?
I can stop.
Go ahead.
And we can,
Go ahead. I'd rather have you conclude than have you do all questions. Yeah.
This month, as members have been training on CPR and bloodborne pathogen, we've also completed the year's 2024 Fire Safety Community Goals for Surfside Beach. This award demonstrates that our department is assisting in making our community fire safe by educating inspections and training. On September 11th, Surfside Beach Fire Department will be hosting a 9/11 remembrance for the fallen with a pier stair climb. So we'll be using the pier to have stair climb, which I think will be pretty honorable and pretty nice to do. To show our call volume and what we're doing, comparison from 2023 to 2024. In 2023, this month, we ran 81 calls. This month, we ran 90. So we've increased that. EMS calls, that was fire calls, and EMS calls, we ran 69 in 2023, and we're down 8 calls, so we're running 61. We're down 1% basically overall as far as that goes. But our call volume, as it showed, increasing on the fire side with a little bit decreasing on the EMS side, which is kind of odd because normally EMS is a lot more for us. Assembly, we've had quite a few inspections. I won't go over single one of them, but we did 58 inspections total. Of those, we had violations discovered were 288. Number of violations corrected were 115. One of the things that we're noticing is we get called out for calls and stuff like that, that we're seeing these condos and stuff that have electrical boxes that are outside, that they're deteriorated. They're rusted apart. The wires are exposed, which are hazards. So we're addressing those with our fire inspection as far as our code and stuff like that, especially with the new fire code administrator coming on. That's going to help us out tremendously that we can address those, hopefully not have any fires in those. On another note, I just kind of wanted to discuss my second part of my job, which is ZMA for Tropical Storm Debbie. On August 2nd, I started to monitor the news and weather channel. On August 5th, we had a meeting with the mayor, Mr. Vincent, Police Chief Davis, Public Works Director Adair, PIO Mole, and I. During the meeting, discussion ensued regarding our readiness as well as what we could do to prepare for Tropical Storm Debbie. Public Works had the biggest impact on the town as they had to drain the ponds, allow for more overflow for the ponds, as well as ensure the water drainage pipes were open. We then discussed with the police department as they alerted their staff and made sure that the high water rescue vehicle that we have for the town was ready and in service for the community. Police had some staffing issues as some of our police officers live outside the town, and it was going to be some detriment possibly from them coming in because of flooding and everything else. So we made arrangements with the fire department that they could actually stay at the fire stations if need be, if they needed to have somebody there for that. The fire department made sure that all our apparatus were fueled up, that our saws were ready to go, so if tree limbs came down, that we could get out there and reopen roads and help out with public works and stuff. During the storm, myself and Mr. Vincent attended online web-based meetings with Horry County's emergency management daily and updated the county on actions that were needed for the town of Surfside. We escalated our OPCON level to a 3, which is normal daily operations, to a 2. We enhanced awareness as the storm started into South Carolina. The streets and ponds were checked daily, as well as the community. The original groups were, we interacted via email, face-to-face, phone calls. We had a really good, as you heard throughout the whole town's meeting tonight, communication going on throughout the storm. The town was upgraded to an OPCON 1 full alert on the day of the storm. The arrival of the town hadn't weathered really anything as far as that goes. We had a little bit of flooding, which actually Mr. Kink and Mr. Stamey were up at the fire station discussing with us. We got called out for a structure fire. I think during that time we had the most flooding going on because we got a pretty good downpour going on. But it easily went away and we had no issues going on within the town. Actions were recorded in our D4H program, which we purchased and can actually interact with the county and stuff like that so that we're well aware of what's going on. They're aware of what's going on for us, and that helps us out. We've seen through some of our social media platforms that we integrate with the county. Absolutely we do. We should be integrating with the county. If we don't integrate with the county, we're failing. This is how the system works. It's a tiered response. It's part of the National Incident Management System, which I have. And part of being that, you have to have 100, 200, 300, 400, 700, 800. These are over 80 hours of continuing education that you need to have. How the system works when we have an emergency system come in to take place is that our town is tasked with taking care of what we can take care of. When we cannot take care of anything more, we reach out to the county and say, hey, we need additional resources. When the county can't take care of those resources, they reach out to the state. The state can't take care of it, they reach out to the federal government. These are all parts of what we have to do. And part of that is actually called the National Fire Service, called the National Response Framework. This is how any type of emergency actions work. There was also some discussion of my training level and stuff. So I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of background. Like I said, I have all the NIMS compliant certifications to make sure that I can do it. Here's just a little bit of other things that I've taken. I've attended the National Fire Service Staff and Command course in Maryland, the National Fire Command and Control of Fire Department Operations of Target Hazards, LSU's National Center for Biomedical Research and Training and Critical Decision Making for Coordinated Attacks, New Mexico's Medical Preparedness and Response for Bombing Incidents. The reason I kind of put this out there is these are all large-scale incidents is that as part of the fire department and part of a command staff that you have to be able to mitigate and work through. These all have the same purposes that we do with tropical storms, hurricanes, everything else. Large-scale incidents, we got to work with multiple jurisdictions. So this is how this all interacts with what do we do and stuff like that. There are some concerns with an EOC not being able to be an operator. for the weather that we got, we roughly got about 8 inches of rain. We didn't need to open the EOC up. We monitored what was going on. We had daily conversations with everybody within the town. We had great working capabilities. It just wasn't something that needed to be open, and that's why we did not. If we had flooded roads, if we had residents out of things, that would have changed the whole situation. But we were lucky with the storm that we didn't get really anything that we needed to do that. I feel that Tropical Storm Debbie was handled with professionalism by all of our town members. They sacrificed their time and energy to ensure the town citizens were taken care of. There was no need for the town to enact the EOC as we had no emergency that could be handled from the day-to-day operations. It was monitored and we felt that there was a need, we would have opened it. I want to thank all the Public Works employees, John Adair and all his staff for their diligent hard work, the police officers and Chief Davis for their attention to detail for protecting the citizens during the event, the mayor and Mr. Vincent for their support and allowing staff to perform their duties without waiver. PIO Mole, who was busy ensuring that all the information was placed out on the town's social media platform, and is also put out on the fire department with over 20 posts allowing our citizens to be well informed of what was going on. If you have questions or concerns, please go to town social media platforms. This is where you're going to get the information that you might need, as well as the fire department. I would like to thank the rest of the town employees council that assisted behind the scenes. And lastly, I would like to thank the residents that supported the entire town and assisted the town and trust us in the process. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for Chief Nelson?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. State.
this is from long ago. I think this naming of the fire department, the plaque thing, I actually think that we had this meeting a while back and we actually passed a resolution to rename the fire department. And it was put on hold for the simple reason we needed the money to pay for a pumper at that time. So what happened to that whole deal?
I couldn't tell you, it was before my time.
It was. It was, and I'm asking Mr. Vincent.
I don't recall a resolution being passed. I think there was a decision paper regarding cost for signage to be on the front and the back of the building and 2 signs out in the front and the back of the building towards the street. And the total was 25, but we held off because there was a pumper that was out that we needed to pay for first.
So we never did pass it to where we was going to rename the fire department?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so
Maybe.
either.
I can definitely check, but I don't believe we did.
I think you might have to back check on that.
I will.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Walls.
in the case of the plaque, I think if you'll double check upstairs in that corridor on the left, I think just outside your office door, I think there is one up there already.
Oh, look, I know there's
Plaque
several
of-
plaques up there. It's like a firefighter of the year, fire officer of the year. I didn't see a specific one for anybody, but I will check myself.
Double check that, because
Absolutely.
I think I actually stood there and read it one day. It's across from the,
Okay.
when you're going down to the break room, it's across from the, just,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it. Yeah, if it's there, great.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
just want to thank you for the great job you're doing. I honestly can see a vast improvement. I went to the farmers market maybe about a month ago, and there was someone sick. We had an ambulance and 2 fire trucks there. Never saw that before.
But we're doing a great job getting crews out. Volunteers, we've increased 2 new members this month alone, so that's awesome.
That's my next question. We're getting more volunteers?
Yes.
And
We actually had to change up our way we're bringing volunteers now. You have to be accredited already because we just don't have the gear to put in and do that. Later down the road, hopefully we'll be able to revent that back in, that we can bring people in that don't have the training and put them through.
And we're allowing the volunteers to be more active.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no reason for them to sit on the floor. Nobody wants to volunteer to sit on the floor, so that's one of the things that we changed, is that anytime we have a call, and as long as it's in with the residents or the town limits, our volunteers can respond out on it. The officer that's on scene can cancel them if there's no need for them, but we can continue them on, and that's what they want to do, and that's what's going to keep them coming back. So.
And I think I read somewhere we actually have 3 fire trucks out at one.
Absolutely.
So I mean, this is what the fire department's about.
Actually, the call that Mr. Staney and Mr. Kinkin were up on, we had the engine, or the rescue and the aerial go out on a call. And it was called for a structure fire. Luckily for us, it wasn't a structure fire, it was something else. And we had another call go out at the same time, and the aerial went out for that and covered that both. So both calls were covered all by our staff.
So big difference when you
Absolutely.
have the proper manning or proper personnel to
Exactly.
get stuff out.
Yep.
And we didn't have that before. I just want to thank you also again. My family, my sons, my daughter, and my grandkids were walking down Ocean Boulevard, and across Ocean Boulevard, and a fire truck was coming. And not only did they stop to let them cross, but they stopped and they put the lights and everything on. And I got a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they were in their glory. And not only did they do that, they jumped out and they handed them the fire hats. I mean, with the police and the fire department, they made their whole trip.
I love to hear that. Our
Yeah.
guys and gals are doing great jobs.
Yeah, I really like that. It's, that's a small town. I love small town. I come from a big city. People didn't do that, but I just love the feel of what you guys are doing. I just want to thank you again.
Anything else for Chief Nelson?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Kinkin?
Chief, I want to thank you for updating us on the EOC. I asked you about it and told you I'd be only ask you here. So you did an excellent job. I do appreciate it. I think the community needs to know how we handle emergencies, and you explained it very well. That this storm was a storm, but it wasn't anything big deal. It wasn't a Hugo, so we didn't need the EOC. And I do appreciate the explanation so that everybody understands how we're operating. Thank you.
I really appreciate the questions. And my office is always open if anybody has questions, public, anybody, I'm more than willing to ask them.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Chief Nelson. We will move on to our final communications item, Stormwater Committee presentation. Yvette Hellier.
So you saved the best for last, huh?
Right? Well, we got more after, but.
On that in terms.
Last but communication. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know that we're on
Any research here? Or does she need to take real? You just project it on the wall, right? Wait for it. Do you want it down, or are you just gonna project it on the wall? Oh, okay.
Get over and lay on the ground.
Get on my hands and knees, stand on my back.
We're in the desert.
Yeah, yeah. Those screens there. I found out how bad my shoulders are. I tried to turn the fan off somewhere. Straight over. Just get up there. Rehab. Physical therapy, this myself.
You want an advisor on how to get the presentation?
Oh, yeah. How do I
You
get
found
the
it before.
presentation up on here? Let me quite sure which button that is.
Not me. All those years I was there, somebody else. Expect me to fix it.
Walk away and then you don't remember.
Hey, bingo. Thank you, Mr. Cracker.
Thank you. Let me see here. Have anybody from? Gotcha. Okay, thank you. How do I get that back down? So I can read my notes.
It's your.
I'm sorry, Laverne. How do I get that there? Oh, there you go. All right. Now how do I get it to be bigger?
You want just the
On there.
full presentation? Is there a presentation mode?
Yeah, how do I get the presentation mode up?
The screen. Screen one?
Fourth one from the left.
To the left. Next to the keyboard.
Or from the right.
Yeah, it's the middle one. It's supposed to be the left. Yeah.
Yeah, but which button is that on here? Jeez, this thing's not helpful. Let's see, okay. Back to that. I'm sorry.
Start over, Laverne.
Not the way I was looking to start, but.
It's okay. It'll be less presentation.
It's just the screen. Well. Okay, thank you.
Don't touch that.
Thank you. All right, thank you. All right, thank you. This is the Stormwater Committee members. First in line is Ron Mask. He's former, he just left to go to Massachusetts to be closer to his family, but Ron was on the Stormwater Committee for a very long time, our former committee chair before I took over, and then I didn't want to mention him because he was with us for quite a long time. Spent quite a bit of the last couple of years working intensely. We have here in the audience Ken Pedraza. And newest member is Dixie Button from Charleston. So we are a small committee, but they're paying money. And right now we have 3 members, and please, we have 2 seats. So consider joining. We do fun stuff. So our mission, key initiatives include enhance water quality, stormwater management, promote the health of the tree canopy for our town, public engagement in water quality, coordination and collaboration with other towns, with water quality. Our program area is very technical. We start primarily with the Clean Water Act and the permit that deals with water quality parameters in water pollution control measures. So you can read all about it on the Environmental Protection Agency website, and it comes from the federal level, down to the state level, down to local municipal areas. And our chief primary person that we work with is the Public Works Department Director, John Adair. So we are somewhat pseudo statutory, but we don't handle the permit oversight. We're primarily operating under the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, otherwise known as NEPDES. So we have a great setup here in that we're geologically and geographically between the ocean and the 5 river system. So the water is what we live off of. The Clean Water Act is extremely important. And so our mission is water quality, stormwater management. Trees are extremely important to stormwater. And the public engagement is our primary area. Public outreach, education, and being involved in the community. So those are the things that we stress on. Yeah, really.
picture of Christine on there, you definitely don't want that one.
I didn't see
Okay,
Okay, so she should be paging down now, right?
Arrest
Okay,
him.
you're going right, okay, there we go.
Okay, there we go. Put my finger there and keep it there. This slide is to show you the water, ocean, rivers, lakes, streams, and ponds. Those are our natural resources. On the left is the new sign you can see if you go in the internet. The new South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, they monitor the beach. You can go on Check My Beach. What a lot of people don't know, if you are not aware, people that come to our town, we are a destination town for a lot of surfers, a lot of people who like to fish, both commercially and in competition as well as for pleasure. They will often go into Check My Beach to see what the water conditions are and the weather conditions are. They will often plan their vacation time of the year based on what the historical record is for this time of year when they want to come down here. So this is an extremely important site for them to know. And they will often do this not just for South Carolina, but all throughout the United States along the coast, both in the west and the east. And so this DHAC, or the new Department of Environmental Services, handles this kind of information. They collect data about all the parameters dealing with water quality on the beach side. On the other side of the slide is the freshwater. And we have a citizen science program that's been in place here for over 15 years that was started by the Coastal Carolina professor, Dr. Levy's. Those are 10 water quality parameters that we take twice a month. 8 of them are done by meters. I did it this morning in Laurel Inlet. And on the blue side, E. coli and turbidity are done in labs. We collect water samples. So we looked at dissolved oxygen, temperature, conductivity, pH, salt, nitrate, nitrite, and ammonia, and total dissolved solids. That goes into a national database, and it's kept for years. It becomes part of the historical record, and it's used for information that is determining the water quality. And the bacteria is extremely important because that's what tells us. It tells John Adair whether or not there's places around here that we should put signs up to warn people about the water quality. And it tells DHAC whether they need to tell John Adair, whether there needs to be warning signs or caution signs where swales are set up. So it's a very important way of notifying individuals when they come to this town and because we live here. So this is a good way to communicate. The other way. So we have citizen science programs and partnerships. You do not need to be a scientist to be part of the citizen science program. And the partnerships are all up and down the Grand Strand. So even though we only have 3 people on our committee, we are involved with all of the different programs, projects, grants, research, and training, and opportunities for seminars that deal with the programs that are all around stormwater. So in our town, we get involved helping John out with the permanent reporting requirements that he has to provide DHAC on the illegal discharge inspections. There are more of us than there are inspectors. So we get to take our little clipboards out whenever we want and look at ditches to see whether or not there are illegal discharges. So if you are out there pouring junk into your ditches and we see it, we're gonna go tell John. And he's gonna go tell DHAC. So we are eyes and ears. We have the same thing when I go and collect water samples twice a month. That's another citizen science program. Recently, John got a grant with the South Carolina Forestry Commission, and we are now looking into our tree canopy mapping project. So we are going to be able to see what Surfside Beach has for tree canopy and be able to maybe do a tree inventory and keep up with our urban forests here in Surfside Beach, which is a very good thing because trees provide so many benefits. And not just in the sense of biology and science, but in our property values and in eco values. Because again, tourists come here because of the way our beautiful town looks like. There are a lot of people that spend money to come here because of the way our town looks. They want to come to a quiet, beautiful environment, not a cluster, messy, crazy, congested, crazy town. They want to come to a place like this. So trees are a big investment, and we want to be able to keep them in a great, sustainable way. So having a study like a tree canopy that is being paid for by the South Carolina Forestry Commission is an excellent opportunity for us. All right, we talked about geese tonight. Wow! The first sign you may not have seen when I was on the second slide is a big blue sign that Surfside Beach has that says, "Do not feed the wildlife." This is the wildlife. A lot of people think they're pets, they want to feed them. Residential geese is pretty much become a scientific subspecies of the Canada geese that is a migratory bird that should be flying from Canada almost all the way down to Mexico. But because they come here and our weather is wonderful, we have plentiful water, we have plentiful supplies, and idiots feed these beautiful wild birds, they don't want to go anywhere. They want to stay here. Birds normally pair up for life, and they're supposed to have maybe 2 eggs, and they have a 50-50 chance of survival. But because they come here and idiots feed them, they'll have 4 to 6 eggs sometimes, and they'll all survive. So their populations boom 4 to 6 times more than they should. And there is a limited supply of food here. So they get angel wings. They cannot carry their weight and migrate anywhere. These generations of resident geese don't know what it means to migrate beyond Surfside Beach to across the highway. That's terrible, really. That's not a good thing. But yet they think that that they should be feeding them. And it's not just residents. There's a lot of people who come to visit and think that it's perfectly fine to feed them popcorn or pieces of bread or terrible things for their diet. Even though we have signs posted everywhere that the public works folks have put up that says, "Do not feed the wildlife, do not feed the geese." We have refrigerator magnets that say, "Do not feed the birds." We hand out all sorts of stuff. So here we have a flyer. We had 2 people in our committee, Ken and Ron, go to this workshop that we helped Catherine set up. Catherine is the coordinator for the consortium, the Coastal Waccamaw Consortium, that consists of about 14 companies and agencies throughout the Grand Strand that we are in partnership with. And Tansy Belkin is the wildlife agent for Clemson Associates. She goes from community to community and provides workshops on geese management. She was here at Scipio Lane in March, and she was working with HOAs to educate people on not to feed the geese and what to do when you have an overpopulation of geese. Because the HOAs in Surfside Beach on the other side of the highway has such an overpopulation, they were coming into their backyards, roosting on their barbecues, making a big mess. The CCU Professor Leeds has done a study. Their poop is extremely toxic. It's part of the E. coli water testing that we do, more toxic than fish and dogs. You don't want to go swimming in that water. You don't want to eat the fish you catch out of that water with a lot of that high a concentration of geese. So you have to be able to manage them if you're going to have such a high population of them, just like the Northeast does with an overpopulation of deer. They don't have an actual predator. So we can have a workshop here, set one up. Education is extremely key in letting people know and letting our residents know what we should be doing in ensuring that we all live in peace and harmony together, right? Because I have it on my phone, but we are a targeted city with folks that have put you all on the list, and you, Administrator Vincent, and you, Sherry, as the place to call and contact and boycott, because we kill geese. And I can show you that later on. But anyway, we already spoke as a committee to get on top of this, to get ahead of the curve. We worked with Catherine to set up this workshop. We can do it again, every year if we have to. On the website for the Stormwater Committee on the Surfside Beach, there is a page that folks can go to read about not feeding the geese. We've been trying to address this for several years now, and it gets bigger and bigger instead of. So we can make it more open, more out there, and make it more prevalent. We do outreach and education at our festival every year, twice a year. We've gotten so that our booths have gotten really big. We work with Catherine, who's the coordinator for the Coastal Walk-A-Mall SEC. She's in partnership with Carolina Clear. We do lots of signs. We have tents. We talk about trees. We have a lot of giveaway, lots of information. Come by our booths, sign up, join the committee. We have ways of letting people know, answer their questions. We get a lot of questions, and we even have cute little t-shirts. We are partnering now with KSBB on Arbor Day, which is a great opportunity. We love it. We get to work with the mayor, the top-notch person in our town, who talk about trees. We plant a tree. We have the best picture there is with Ellen. I love that smile. It's part of promoting the Tree City USA. It's a great organization. We are Tree City USA. This is a wonderful chance to do something along that line. That's a wonderful organization. They have great a resource for us to use. So we take all of our, we take our booth stuff, we take our information, we have it there available for people to have. A lot of times it's on a Friday, there's a lot of people who work, so we really don't see as many people as we'd like. But nonetheless, this year the press came, and I even got interviewed. So that was fun. Our mission, since October 26, 2021, Town Council at the time asked us to work on looking at the ordinance under Chapter 17, zoning, Article 7, to come up with some better language, better protection on trees. So we have been working on that. Not an easy job. There were a lot of complaints at that time coming in about clear cutting properties, not quite getting the canopy protection that it needed for trees and so on. So we took it, we were asked by the administrator, Town Administrator Shannon, to take a look at the Chapter 17. It was being worked on and reviewed by the Planning Commission. They spent a couple of months on it with Carol Coleman, who was from the COG. They presented it to council. Then council turned it over to us. So we were chartered to review it and come up with some recommendations. So we quickly looked at it and came up with these recommendations upon which the council agreed. So we've been doing a very extensive review based on these points that council said go forward with. So I know you don't want to spend all night here, so I put them all down and prepared them, and you will have them in your packet. We are definitely looking for a standalone tree ordinance. That is number one. We want to expand it to include tree protection and tree preservation. We want to promote having a town arborist to ensure compliance for all trees, not just certain trees, which is what's in chapter 17. We want to take it out of zoning and have it be its own standalone, or put it in a place where it has the ability to increase enforcement and to have tree knowledgeable individuals work with all aspects of trees that would be more inclusive with the residents, the business owners, the contractors, and tree professionals. It's near completion. We've spent a great deal of time and effort working with and talking to experts, both in the commercial sense as well as town arborists. We have reviewed almost every single ordinance from the Grand Strand, from North Myrtle Beach all the way down to Georgia, the state of Georgia, the state of Florida, Georgetown. The majority of the places in the Grand Strand have gone through revisions of their ordinances, so we are in keeping with what is going on in the area ordinances for the trees. We are looking at putting together the final touches and then going out, wanting to have a lot of feedback. We want to have a public comment period. We would like to have perhaps a couple of workshops. We want to borrow some of the ways that changes to ordinances are done on the federal level, bring it into this particular area, because I do believe it's going to be a change in the way most of the time ordinances are done. So we want to make a major focus on landscape trees. Chapter 17 includes protected and specimen trees, which nobody really knows what that is. So we want to make it more common sense, have better clarity, and have it so that it's a much better understanding, and that there be more enforcement options. So the new standalone tree, the draft status is to secure the services of a certified arborist, complete the assessment with what's going on in Conway and Georgetown, and there are about 10 other coastal regions, so that we're more in keeping with what is more amenable to our area. Continue working with Public Works and PP&Z, estimate the completion to be in a couple of months. We will also be looking to have some technical review from the Green Infrastructure Center. That's who we're working with right now on the canopy mapping, and then to share the ordinance so that we can get the feedback. And that's where we stand with that. So this is our new patch. And lastly, please give a recognition to the people that work beyond us. We have a couple folks here in the audience. Ron and Carol in the back. They've been doing data collection and analysis for over 10 years, and they live here in Surfside. These are folks that live here in Surfside for the most part. We have, I don't know, is Jackie here? Jackie Worthington is our mapper, and she's in the bottom corner. Of course, you know John Adair. Across the highway is, in the dark glasses, is Jim Bunting. Next to him is Caruso, Courtney Caruso. She lives here in Surfside too. Down there or up there in the red jacket is our dear friend Hope Petrie. He passed away. He was on our committee too. Last year he passed away. And then Victoria Green, Kelly in the green and the red t-shirt. They are from CC. That's Dr. Leaves. They're from CCU. And then who is that guy in the gray shirt? What's his name?
Kelly. Tell him, Skip.
Hi.
That's Chris Gamey is our liaison.
Yeah.
There you go. What would you do without him? And that's all. Any questions?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Another nice project, man.
Mr. Stegman.
I'd like to take the opportunity, I am the liaison for that group. We are a small group of people, and we do need help. I mean, you know, it'd be really nice to see a couple more people come out and join. But I want to tell you, these people work very hard in this, in the stormwater area. They checking water, making John's job a little harder sometimes, a little easier sometimes. But it's a good group. It ain't something that, it ain't a KSB, but it's it's a good little group of people, and you learn a lot. And I would like to point out to Ken and Yvette and Dixie, I appreciate the work y'all are doing. I know I've been there, I've sat through a lot of meetings. These guys has taken on this tree ordinance. They are getting close. But they've worked very solemnly on this. And I'm very proud of being a part of it. John Adair is a great person to have on this group. He comes in and gives his expertise in a lot of places. But I would like to put out there that we need a couple more people. And we'd like to have the people here in the audience or whoever's listening out there to come and join us. I'd be more than proud to recommend anybody. So you'll learn a lot, and thanks, Yvette, for the presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Michelle?
I do have a question.
Oh.
As far as our water quality, has the geese affected that in any way?
They have in the last year to 2 years. Not to the point where the E. coli is the bacteria that's in the water. It will not kill you. We have no permanent posting to prevent you from going in the water, but you will see increases. The reporting is done every 2 weeks, and then the CCU gather for quarterly reports and annual reports. So you see spikes in the graphs. That's what you see. Not enough to, make it appear hazardous, but that's what you notice. You see the trends that show up. 3 years ago, Dr. Leaves did a report out in Conway, because they do annual conferences, and it was all based on poop. To do a comparison of geese versus other alligator that's around here in our natural resources. And that's how we got a good sense of gauging dogs, alligator, fish, shark, marine versus fresh. And you got to see how it's pretty intense, because if you look at some of folks in their backyard and they're on a water, Lake Elizabeth, Lake Dogwood, and they don't have a fence and they don't have any kind of a barrier, there are a lot of geese that will crawl up onto it, and then they walk and poop at the same time.
Right.
And then, I don't know if you know, the HOA across the highway that had the huge controversy that was in the paper. Yes, Surfside Club. They were complaining of up to 50 in a yard. That's a lot.
Yes.
And you can get sick being around that and breathing in that. So that's where I think we need to pay attention, and you may have to have a deeper conversation.
I would be interested in establishing a workshop to educate. So I don't know how we would go about setting that up, but.
Yeah, we can work with Catherine Watts and Pansy and get a sense of how many people would come and do something like right here or maybe a bigger place. Scipio is right down, Scipio Lane now, it's right down the hall here. So,
thank you.
do you remember how many people went to the one in Scipio?
There's probably about 25, 30 people with various areas or HOA, I think.
Yeah.
And, non-HOA. But it was great information, probably 4 hours. But it really showed you how we're going to have to live with geese. That's just the way it is. But you have to manage it so that you don't have too many. And they show you ways to do that, recognizing it's not a simple process, nor is there one simple, easy answer to all of that.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Kinkin.
do you do any testing in the ground under the lakes, the lake?
No.
So we don't know what's in there.
There's no lab equipment set up for sediment testing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's been asked before, but they haven't really found any necessity to do ground because that's decay and you're gonna be getting way more than just what you need what you're really looking for in the water. That's decay sediment, clay, you know, whatever dyes goes in there, and that's not the kind of stuff you're
Okay.
testing for.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
I don't know if you know the answer. Is having fish in the lakes, is that good for it?
Yeah, fish in the lakes are fine, turtles in the lakes are fine. We don't really have lakes per se that are natural. We have engineered ponds that are manufactured, and they're not going through a root system like natural streams and ponds and lakes. So it's collecting a runoff that is not going through a filtration. So it's instead going through what do you call it, weirs, and eventually thinning out, diluting, and then going to the ocean. So whatever you put in that water is, you want to be careful what goes in that water. So we don't want to have a whole lot of these. That's what's going to end up in the ocean. And the swales that we have at the beach, people don't realize that you don't let your children play in that.
That was one of my questions,
You don't let
especially
your
after a storm.
Right, you don't let your children play in that, and even though we put signs there, you know, they don't read the signs, and so,
I've told people countless times, it's not a good thing to let your kids swim in there, and they look at me like crazy.
and the primary reason why you don't let kids, or you don't want kids, is there isn't anything, if there isn't anything really filtering it out. So,
All right, the reason why I asked about the fish is that in Dogwood Lake, I know it's only a retention pond, but it's pretty big. We used to have a lot of fish.
yeah,
We don't seem to have as many fish as we used to. So if it was beneficial to the lake, maybe we should stock it a little bit. I don't know. We have enough people taking them out.
you know, it's the biomass isn't really going to be, enhanced. Biomass is the amount of water that you have coming and going and filtering through, and then adding fish to it. You're not gonna have an equilibrium that's going to be of benefit in its ecosystem. So you leave it alone, because we don't dredge. And
We're supposed to dredge.
we don't dredge enough. And so you can literally walk across Dogwood, where I live, and not really sink.
You're on Elizabeth.
And Elizabeth, I don't know how deep it is.
You're on Elizabeth.
I don't think it's 3 feet deep. So you're not gonna really, and so it can get clogged up easily, it can get turbidity easily, it can get, you know, if something falls in there, it can get, cloudy, kill the fish, have a fish kill, that's even worse. Then, so nobody's going fishing there to get to eat the fish. I would eat the fish. My grandson came last November, caught a wide mouth catfish. Mouth was this big. That thing was pretty big and heavy, and it was only really 5 to 7 pounds. But I wouldn't, you know, we threw it back in. There's plenty of fish, I think.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna ask one more thing.
Mr. Stamey?
Yvette, how many, I know John or somebody knows this, how many birds are we supposed to have per lake in our town?
Well, 6 to 8 geese per square mile.
So, has anybody really sat down and thought about that? 6 birds per square mile. Think how many we got?
I have 30 in my backyard, at least, every
You ain't
day.
a mile away.
30 of them every day.
All right, let's not break down the meeting. Is there anything else? All right, thank you, Ms. Hellier. All right, we're now moving into our business items. We're gonna start with a resolution to suspend parking for Beach Sweep. Ms. Mall?
Hello, good evening again. This is a resolution that would allow the parking for the Keep Surfside Beach Beautiful Committee in conjunction with the South Carolina group to have their parking parking fees waived between the 16th and 17th Avenue parking lot. It's directly behind Holiday Inn. It's very difficult to, I think they call it the 16th Avenue parking lot, but that's where it is. So that would be resolution 240176. This one is also from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So we're asking that those fees be waived between 7:30 and 10. I'll be happy to read the resolution if you'd like me to.
I don't think that'll be necessary. I think before we go on, we should, I'd like to have a motion to adopt this, and then we can discuss.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
make a motion to adopt resolution number 24-0176. Resolution of the town of Surfside Beach temporarily suspending enforcement of certain ordinances allow free parking for KSBB beach sweeps.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I guess typically parking is suspended at 3rd Avenue North, which is where most of the beach suites are conducted.
Yes.
This is the big one.
This is the big one,
The state.
statewide. Mhm.
And so that's why we're moving to the other.
Yes, Holiday Inn.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so I just want to make that clear. Anything else? All right, Ms. Medina?
Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Crepwell,
Yes.
Mr. Walls,
Yes.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mayor Kraft.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 7B is Civic Center option to renovate. Councilmember Kinkin.
Mr. Mayor, I have brought this up a few times. I feel like this building is still usable. There are issues with it, and I think if we, as a council, address those issues, or at least agree to address the issues and let the administrator move forward, to get an estimate on what it would take to rehab this building, to get rid of mold, any asbestos, any other leaks, problems, whatever it has, as an option, instead of building 2 new buildings, which we don't have enough money for 2, is rehab this building and then build a building. But before we can make a decision, we need some estimate on what it would take to rehab this building.
All right, so would you like to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we instruct the administrator to get an estimate or estimates to rehab this building, to get rid of all mold, asbestos, and any other negative, to put it back in a usable, long-term usable state.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. And it basically, just to restate, the motion is to get an estimate for what it would take to make this building usable long-term.
Correct.
Is that basically, okay. All right, any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman?
since we have no paperwork or anything on this, what exactly do you mean by this building? This room right here, you're talking about, which used to be the planning and zoning area there. Yeah, the garages, what does it encompass?
Well, the garages are separate. This is a separate building, and it goes from that wall to the front wall, out by the parking lot. There are offices over there, there's space. I haven't been in that area, but I know it's there. And when they started talking about what we were gonna build was for 75 people. Well, if you count the chairs in here, you can almost do 75 in this space. And I assume this is a support wall, so we can't totally remove the wall, but we could put a support in there and move back in a little bit. But that's not what I want to do right now. All I want to know is if we got a problem with the, I've been told that the spray insulation in the ceiling, or actually it's in the rafters, is got mold on it because there's no airflow, that we had mold in some of the offices that we're not using. And anything else in here, there's a question, is there asbestos in this building? Well, I don't know, but we need to find out what it would take to put this building in a usable state. I'm not saying that we're going to decorate this building right now. I just want to know what it takes to make this room usable, this building. And that's from, I'm not including the garage, although I think it'd be terrible to tear the garage down for storage. But that doesn't include anything on the other side of that wall. It's just this building and what it would take to rehab. I've seen buildings that have gone all the way back to the studs if it's that bad. And till you take stuff out, you don't know what's there. And that's what we need to do, is find out what's here and what it would take to rehab this building. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't think it'll cost $3 million. And if it's $1 million, we got $2 million we can use for another building. I just think we need some, before we go out and build a new building and tear this one down, I think we need to know what could be done with this building, if it's feasible.
Mr. Coleman, you still have the floor if you have more questions, comments?
Yeah, I like the idea of looking at this building, but I also like that if you're gonna have someone come in and give you an estimate for fixing the mold in this building, whatever else is wrong, for not using it, then I'd also want, since you have someone, we get a number for this building, we get a number for the garage. So if you want me to make an amended motion to have the garage done also, so that we know right away. So it's not like we do this now and then we go, oh, let's do the garage. Let's just do it, find out the numbers for everything right now, and then go from there. And then we could see if we can use it, and then go on to see how we could possibly reconfigure it and use it possibly differently.
I'd like to hold off on amending the motion at this point, but I think we can take that back for consideration. I don't think we need to add that right now.
But what we're doing is we're gonna get how much it's gonna cost.
Right, but somebody may bring up some other point.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I don't want to amend the motion 4 times.
I got you.
That's all I'm saying.
I just, all right.
No, that's it.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Stanky.
Jerry, has there been any studies or anything been done to this building that you know of, cost-wise?
Yes, sir. So Mr. Eric Robinson had sent me, there were 2 reports that were done back in 2021. One was on asbestos and one was on mold. So when you're talking about is mold and asbestos present in these 3 structures or these 3 buildings, the answer is yes. The report, just briefly going through it, when Eric had sent it to me, they showed that it's present. Is it harmful to us now? No, the answer is no. But there were areas they could not get to because of unsafe conditions. So there's possibly mold and asbestos in the other areas of the building that they could not even identify because they couldn't get there. So yes, there's been 2 reports.
Well, I'm gonna use the Floral Lake Clubhouse is a standard or what we, when I first come on board, we had them to tell us that Clubhouse is a total disaster. I've been on council now for 3 years, and I just recently learned that building is not as bad as I was first led to believe. So are we looking at the same thing in this building? Are we being led to believe this building's in worse shape than what it is? Or if we can get somebody in here to give us an estimate of what it's going to be to clean it up?
These 2 reports were done by experts in their field with asbestos and mold. So yes, I would contact these individuals to bring them back to council for sure.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Walls.
Jerry, can you clarify for me, there were areas that they couldn't get to because it was unsafe?
Yes.
What, can you tell me kind of what that,
So,
did they describe it anyway?
yeah, briefly, when I went through here and I found some pages that indicated that up in the roof structure where there had been some beams that were cut, they were unsafe for them to crawl into the beams to identify where mold.
Not that the asbestos and
No.
mold was so bad they couldn't go
No,
up
sir.
there? Okay.
It was just unsafe to get to that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Krecklau.
Did they happen to say where the asbestos was? Is it maybe just the tile or is it in the walls?
I believe it indicated that the tile has been covered at least twice.
Yes.
And that's what you do. You don't disturb it, so you just cover it and encase it, and it gets approved. So there's
but
other.
did they say where the asbestos was, I guess?
Yes, they did. I don't know the terminology right offhand, but there's a full-blown report of everything that's in these three buildings and at what percentage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? I guess the issue I have with this, if we approve, I guess we can ask Mr. Vincent, this motion would ask Mr. Vincent to seek out estimates, but we wouldn't establish a number at this time, I guess is what we're saying. What we'll pay for. Nobody's going to do this work for free. My other concern is we're still going to probably have inaccessible or potentially unsafe areas. And I think we're going to have a lot of, we'll get a number based on what they can see, but we'll have no idea if that's a good number or another 50% markup or more once they start tearing into things. And I'm afraid we could chase, some good money after that if we do that. So I don't know if we want to put a number on a maximum we'd be willing to spend, or if we're just going to ask Mr. Vincent to bring some people in here to, I don't even know how they can do an estimate until they come in here. And so they have to come in one time to look at the building to then give us an estimate on how much it would cost to really assess it, would be my guess. I don't know, this looks like a lengthy process to really get a good answer. I'm not sure we'll ever get a good answer. That's my concern about it.
And Mr. Mayor, I believe the request is not only to get an estimate for the mold and asbestos removal, but I believe we're also talking about to renovate the building back to a.
Yes, that's the motion on the table right now.
I'll be contacting 3 different individuals. Yeah, okay.
And so there may be many assessments with multiple costs.
Right, because you would need a contractor to also give you a same estimate.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, so we have a motion on the table right now. Okay, I'm working to that point. We have a motion on the table right now to get estimates to bring this building back to a usable, a long-term usable functionality. And Mr. Coleman suggested amending it to include the garage portion as well. Do you want to?
I don't want to do it. No.
You don't have to.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, amend the motion to include the garage building also, a separate estimate. So we know how much it's going to cost this building, and if we wanted to do the garage, how much it costs for that.
Okay. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, and I'll try to restate it again. The motion now on the table would be to get estimates to bring this entire building, including the garage area, garage storage area on the side, back to usable functionality long-term.
Not the annex. It's on the end.
Not the end, just the garage.
Yeah, not the
portion.
annex.
Yeah.
Because the annex is attached, so I just want to clarify that
Okay.
that's, we're talking about the building and the garage, not the annex, which is the latter.
Okay, is that what the intent of your motion?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so that's what we have on the table. Is there any other discussion on this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Shaw?
okay, if we're not gonna do the annex, but say there's more bad stuff in that, and you fix this part, wouldn't not doing the annex 2 eventually, say we
They tear
fix,
it down.
they would tear it down.
They probably tear it down.
And
Mr. Mayor, the thinking is that the annex will eventually be torn down.
okay,
Very good.
all right, now I get it.
Okay, so yeah, we're limiting it to this building, including the other side plus the garage, not the annex, okay? All right, so is there any other discussion? We do not have a number at this time, so we're just asking Mr. Vincent to bring estimates, okay? All right. Ms. Medina?
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Stamey,
Yes.
Mr. Kinkin,
Yes.
Mr. Walls,
Yes.
Mr. Kreckall,
Yes.
Ms. Fallon,
Yes,
Mayor Kraus.
I'll go yes. Motion carries unanimously, so Mr. Vincent can start to get some estimates together, or people to provide estimates. All right, we are now moving on to our final business item, a proposed peer kiosk application. Director Adair?
Good evening again, and for some background, it's been part of the plan pretty much from the inception of the peer committee that we lease out some space on the pier to provide kiosks for small push cart type businesses to lease space from us in various capacities along the smaller section of the pier, moving forward to enhance the experience for patrons and to provide some revenue for the town as well. The peer committee has come up with this application. Basically asks a number of questions from the applicant, what sort of business they're looking for. We want to make sure there's a review process to make sure that it doesn't conflict with our existing businesses or create some sort of a conflict of interest. But the application process has certain rules on here, space limitations and insurance requirements, and they're proposing a lease fee done by the annually, $500 a month plus 1% of their gross sales. That's something that they came up with after doing some research. So the council has time to look at this, and I believe that's really, if there's any changes that the council wants to make to this, that would be the time to talk about it.
All right, would anybody like to make a motion? You know what, I'll do it. I'll make a motion to accept this peer kiosk application as is.
I'll second it.
All right, we now have a motion on the table.
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to make if we could clean it up a little bit.
I just said,
You know what I mean, the columns straight. And
Yeah.
And one of the questions I had was, if somebody's making an application to do this and they're waiting for approval, would they indeed buy a business license, have a business license number then? Or would we add that later to their application?
I would think pending the approval, you wouldn't require them to get a business license until they're
Okay,
approved.
I didn't know if that was gonna be a stipulation, so. Didn't make sense.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to have people spend money on a business license. They can't use it.
If we turn them down, so.
Mr. Kinkin?
Is this an annual fee of $6,000? If it's
Based-
$500 a month for a year,
Based on my reading of their application, it would be an annual thing, and it would be for the whole year, regardless of how many months they decided to use it or not.
wow.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I thought maybe it was gonna be just for the months that they wanted to operate, but this is what came through for an annual thing. And of course, that's subject to change. This is just a proposal, but this is what the committee has come up with.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Krecklau?
Previous, before this meeting, I received an email from Alex that
Yes.
made
Yeah.
some changes to this. So I don't really know what the changes were. I read them, but I forgot. But I don't think that the copy we have in front of us has the change.
Yeah,
So
I have a copy of the email in front of me, and I'll tell you what it says. There's one bullet that should be removed. It's an artifact from an earlier version. It's bullet number 13 under the rules and details. And the bullet was Kiosk lease rate is determined by seasonality, so that's gone. It's gonna be more of a flat rate type of thing. And then the second point that he makes is the space rental fees are $500 per month plus 1% of gross sales, which creates a mutual incentive for both parties while being similar to surrounding pier rates. Fees are charged every month. This mirrors most other freestanding leases such as Broadway at the Beach. The vendor can choose not to be present during the off-season, but rent for the space is still charged, just like we charge strippies and all tenants regardless of the weather or the season. These are the lease rates presented to council in our last presentation on slides 8, 15, and 18. 500 a month plus revenue share. These terms are calendar, January 1 to December 31. If signed after January 1, lease rates are incurred from the signing date prorated till December 31st. The fourth item is in-season minimum operating hours, should be specified 40 hours a week. And we should define what in-season means to the applicant. Power is available, and there's some language about sizes, which we all agreed on already, pretty much. And then the town makes the final determination as to type of business, whether we want that on the field or not. And that's pretty much what the email, to sum it up. But I think the larger point is the monthly versus annual payment plan.
I just wanted to make it clear that we're probably voting on the changes, not as it's written in front of us.
Well, we would amend the motion.
Okay.
I wanted to get it rolling.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
so to clean it up, kiosk information, what type of kiosk rental agreement are you applying for? They said it's only gonna be an annual. They got annual, seasonal, quarterly, so I don't understand why they did that. I might even go for a seasonal instead of annual, but, that's up to discussion. You got a little kiosk, you're in February, you're paying $500, and you're not getting any. I'm not coming back with any kid. I think the whole idea is to get people actually to do this. It's a great form and it's a great idea, it's just that it needs to be cleaned up. So we have to figure out if it's gonna be annual, seasonal, or shouldn't be in the question. We should, you're applying for an annual, you're applying for a seasonal.
Well, I did have a discussion with Mr. Samsel earlier today, and, I said I was disappointed that nobody could be here, and I guess the whole peer committee had other commitments today, so I understand that happens. I wanted to be able to move ahead with this, but that's the first thing that jumped out at me is, okay, they said take it out of the bullet points, but it stays on the agreement. I hope that's just an oversight.
I think that might have been an oversight. Doesn't make sense that it's not an
But
oversight.
this is the second copy that he sent in the email.
Okay.
And it's
So
like,
still on there.
it's still on here. So, and I had some other, there's a lot of stuff on here. I would probably put the rules first and then have you, fill out the application, but we could debate that. I don't, I assume some of these questions are asked for the peer committee to do initial vetting and for us ultimately, the gross sales and so on and so forth. But I guess really, I don't know that we can go, I don't know that we can get really satisfactory answers without representation from the committee. I was hoping we could move ahead, but I think, me personally, I think they should have somebody in here to do it. I'm not gonna put you on the spot for interpreting everything that's in
Yeah, no, I
here.
appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
for
Vincent?
clarification, this was more for discussion to.
It's in the business.
To get on
Exactly.
board, right,
Yeah.
but we need a first and a second reading in September to establish a fee, which is by ordinance. So it was more for discussion to get it to where we want it to bring it back in September for first and second.
Yeah, whatever's decided, we'll have to go into our fee ordinance,
Right.
actually.
I understand that, but I
Okay.
mean, I'm not sure we can even get
And I
there
think
yet.
I think you're right.
So,
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Wallace.
one of the comments that I would really like to talk a little more about, other peers that are doing it on an annual basis, aren't flexible to sell seasonal and so forth. That's one of the things I'd like to talk to them about. I mean, he alluded to that Alex alluded to that in his email, that this was competitive, this layout, this pricing was competitive with the local market. But I don't know, he's talking about Broadway at the beach. That's an extremely different animal than what we're talking about here in February.
Yes, correct.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm all about making money. I like that, but this is pretty hard to expect somebody to go for a 1-year lease. We approved this already?
No.
Oh,
No.
it's just a 1-year lease, no flexibility in
Well, this is
seasonal or.
this is the application process and rate schedule, concept that they've come up with.
Okay.
And that's what we're discussing.
Yeah, I would love to be able to.
Change it, get more clarification.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Coleman.
I don't know what you want to do, but since we're here and we're discussing, can we discuss it some more? And then the peer committee can look at what we discussed and fine tune it, because there's a number of items on here, since we're here.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, on rules and details, it has to be on wheels. So if I want to sell pictures, or if I want to sell photos of the pier, I have to have something on wheels. I can't have a rack. I don't.
Well, the concept is it has to be removed each night.
Right,
off of the
you have a
piers.
rack. You have a rack you're hanging pictures from. You pick up your rack, you leave.
Yeah,
You don't need
I
a-
see what you're saying.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
not necessarily a push cart. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Also, it says, you can't, no flame, combustion, or non-electrical power will be allowed. And then they got a picture of a hot dog stand. There's thousands of hot dog stands in New York, they don't blow up. You know,
Propane.
Yeah, right, that's how you cook hot dogs.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
know.
that disappeared from the second version, but I'm not
I don't
sure.
know.
I didn't see it on my final of the update, but I don't know. Probably a good idea to remove.
Yeah, I'm not sure propane will be allowed on the pier.
Oh,
I don't know. Keith's not here to talk about it. If it's not allowed, he'll be able to tell us why.
Just as long as they don't have chairs. then you be-
you're not gonna share with your brother.
I have nothing, I don't think I have anything.
Mr. Mayor?
Other than the rate, you know, I don't know if we should go with the $500 plus the 1%.
And I think that's why we need to really have that part to kind of go into that detail. Ms. Shaw?
I do know, I'm the peer committee's liaison, and I do know that they went and looked at Garden City Pier, they Broadway on the beach, but they looked like even a couple beaches down the road, past Myrtle Beach. And that's where they came up with most leases are annual. So that's what they're feeding off here. So just an FYI, they have done research. I would think it would be a good idea to bring them back in here so they can explain further.
Okay. Are there any other comments?
I just, I could have sworn the Garden City Pier is shut down. They shut it in the winter time for at least a month. So how do they have an annual meeting? I don't know.
I guess they're here 9 months or 10 months.
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay.
But it's all good questions. So right now, we have a motion on the table to accept this as is. That's all we've done. We could amend the motion or just have them come back. Are there any other comments? Questions?
Mr. Mayor, I really don't think we have enough information to vote on.
Or we can vote and vote it down.
You don't want it as is.
Okay.
Right.
Vote. I vote against it.
Yeah, we can bring it back. Okay, any other comments, discussion? Ms. Medina?
Ms. Fallon?
All right, let me get this.
We're just, the motion is to
accept it
accept this
as
as is.
Okay, yes.
Mr. Crickwell?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
No.
Mr. Kinkin?
No.
Mr. Stingley?
No.
Mr. Coleman,
No.
Mayor Kraus.
No, motion fails 5-2. We'll get in touch with the peer committee again.
Yeah.
I think we'll just get a clearer statement. And it was unfortunate, like I said, that they just didn't have anybody available today. With that, and of course, I just shuffled the papers. Okay. We are now reaching item 8, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
It's just because of your Diana Taylor, 7th Avenue North. You know, I went to a lot of peer community meetings in the beginning. And remember, there are some peers that don't make them take their kiosks off, even though I know that's a FEMA regulation, supposedly. But, so that's the big factor right there, is taking off or not taking off. Just remember that. So there are kiosks in Myrtle Beach, there are piers that are not going off at night. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, I see none, so we will move on to town council discussion and comments. I'm going to start, Mr. Waltz.
Short and sweet. I just wanted to thank, our employees and our directors for all their hard work and reporting and standing in front of us and answering a lot of silly questions sometimes, but I appreciate the patience and the hard work that they put in. Thanks everybody for listening in, taking an interest in your town, giving us your feedback. It's actually getting better and better and better. I'm getting more and more visits and getting to interact with more and more people. We've got a good town that's engaged well with our council, and that's good. We need y'all. We need y'all to tell us what you think so that we can plan for your future. And that's all I have. See you next time.
All right, thank you. Mr. Coleman.
Just want to thank you all for coming out and listening. I think we're definitely in a positive direction. Things are starting to happen, good things are happening. Unfortunately, we have things from the past that we just can't do anything about, and it's very, very frustrating. If you're frustrated, I'm 10 times more frustrated with what's going on with the pier and other things in town. It's really, really terrible. But we're gonna get through it. It's gonna take a little time. We'll get through it, and but everything is really, really, I think, in my opinion, is looking up. Thank you for coming in.
Mr. Stamey.
Let me start out saying thanks to all the employees for a great report tonight. I thought the reports went really well. I thought everybody had a good say. But I want to restate that the stormwater committee needs 2 more people. So please listen. We'll be more than happy to have some more people. With saying that, good night, everybody.
All right, thank you. Mr. Crackwell.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and the ones listening in. I'd like to explain my vote on the peer kiosk application. We do it all the time. We vote on a ordinance, and then the second time that we vote on it, we make lots of changes to it, and then we vote again on it. So that's the biggest reason, because I just thought it would help move it along. But I'm happy with the way the vote went. So anyway, good night. See you next time.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kinkin.
Good evening. I'm glad to see a lot of people here. Of course, some of them have already left, but I want to thank them for being here and the people that tuned in. I want to thank our directors. They do a great job. They gave good reports tonight. I asked for an explanation of our EOC, and I think we got a very good explanation of what took place and what will take place if it's more severe. I want to thank Ms. Hellier for the Stormwater Committee. She did an excellent job with a good presentation. It's been a very beneficial night. We didn't have any fights or anything like that. I want to thank Jerry for the hard work he's doing and for Sherry for keeping us straight. And with that, hope to see everybody here in 2 weeks. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Shaw.
First of all, I'd like to apologize for being late. It was personal. I can't go into detail, but all I ask you is to keep Myrtle Beach Police Department in your thoughts and prayers. I'm sure it's hitting the news soon. But they lost the dispatcher. And so, that's why I was late, because my daughter's a corporal in the dispatch room. So again, I apologize, but family comes first. I do appreciate the reports we're getting. The police department, the fire department, I can't tell you enough. I'm seeing you all around town, whether I'm working in the yard or I'm on the pier. The police officers and the fire department, they're waving. And the kids' faces just get so excited. So we're getting back to that true meaning of Family Beach, and I truly appreciate the efforts. It takes everyone. And with that said, the stormwater, I am planning commission, and I know John Adair, I'm not even gonna look at him when I say this, because I know they want to do dredging. That's one of their priorities in their 10-year plan. I'd like to be able to understand the stormwater and if dredging would help our stormwater. So maybe in that workshop, we can get a fuller picture of that. So, with that said, be safe and good night.
All right, thank you very much. I'll wrap it up. We spent a fair amount of time talking about police and fire reports, and I do like what I've seen there. I think also, I'm really pleased with planning, building, and zoning. That department is fully staffed now. Well, we lost the building inspector. It was fully staffed for a while, but he was part-time, and in the end, I think it's going to be better when we get a full-time building inspector too. So that's good, but I just like that I see the outreach activities in that department as well. Again, same with police and fire, but planning, building, and zoning has a tough job too. They have to enforce the code, but it can seem heavy-handed at times. And I like, as Director Garrison walked through the process, even with these abatements that have been around for years, that we've tried to work with the people and try to bring them along. It's not just drop the hammer. So I'm seeing that in all departments. We didn't vote on it, but I think we're going to have to look at this website. It sounds like we kind of tried to do it a little bit on the cheap when the changeover came. We don't have, I come from the corporate world. We had large IT departments. Our IT kind of just keeps things going, but the content on it and linking things properly and making sure everybody's adhering to the same standards, we don't have that. And anything we can do to automate that is probably worthwhile. And we all know the phone app where we look at the website on our phones versus computers. It's pretty different. And again, it shouldn't be that much. So I think we will have to address that in the near future. Back to the fire department for a minute. We heard mention of the stair climb. I am definitely going to participate in that. I'm encouraging everybody to come out. If you don't want to make 28 trips up and down the stairs, I get it, but at least come out and support and view the activity. I intend to make the 28 trips. We'll see how it works, but I would like to see everybody out there for that. And I mean, it is 9/11. That is a key date in our history, and we can't ever forget that. So I just, again, want to encourage everybody to be there. Stormwater Committee, I'm going to echo Mr. Stamey's comments and Ms. Hellier. 3 members. I was on the peer committee with 3 members for a while. It's tough. And this is obviously a committee with a lot of reach, a lot of workload, but it's pretty clear that it's a vital interest to the town. So if you want to work on a committee that, you're not just meeting once a month and discussing some, arcane issues or something, this is the real stuff. So it's going to take somebody who really wants to do something, but what an opportunity for those who do. The tree canopy is just one facet of the job, but it is probably the thing that separates Surfside Beach from every other town along the Grand Strand. You know, there's other areas that have trees on, but not at a town level. You know, you go down south, yes, but those are not incorporated areas, and it does make us unique in this area. So I just want to thank everybody for attending, listening in, whatever, and we'll see you all again in 2 weeks. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, meeting adjourned.